Release date, October 26, 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of TBD CFB with your host, I'm Mason.
And I'm Isaac.
And once again, we are having internet outage issues with Joey. So it's like we just can't get a consistent three of us. It's been a minute since we've had all three of us on the pod. I think it was literally like 4 episodes ago, but no matter what, we're still here. We're going to talk some college football with you tonight. First off, we're going to start off with our pick records. It's kind of like a review. If you're keeping record at home, here we go. All right, in third place, we have Joey, who went 1-4 this past week. The only one he picked correctly was Illinois over Michigan. That takes him to 22-23, 8 games back, and goes under 500. In second place, we have myself. I went 4-1 this past week. I was so close to 5-0. And now I'm overall 29-16, and I'm 1 game back from my man Isaac, who is in first place. He went 3-2 this past week for an overall of 30-15. The first person on this team to reach 30 correct picks. The best picks of the week, we have myself picking UGA over Texas. First of all, how about them freaking dogs, man? I said last week that they were going to have to play a perfect game, establish the run game, and you know what? We didn't. We started the first 2 drives, turning the ball over with interceptions. Carson Beck in this game threw 3 interceptions. We still won by 15. I watched the first 2 drives, saw that we were throwing picks, turning the ball over. I was thinking, oh no, this is going to be Alabama part 2. So I turned it off. I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm in Indianapolis for the Bands of America Super Regional with Wando High School. Start setting up some audio stuff. 30 minutes goes by. I check my phone and we're up 17-0. I'm like, how did that happen? So, of course, I start watching the game again. I'm looking at the game. We go into the half 23-0. I'm kind of worried that we're going to give up something in the second half. Texas had that great little comeback, but you know what? We stuck it out. We fought hard, and our defense played lights out. We sacked quarterbacks 7 times. We sacked both Ewers and Arch Manning, and we made them fumble on their passes and on the sacks. So they turned the ball over 4 times, 3 fumbles with Quinn Ewers throwing 1 interception. We just played really, really well. I mean, I had a feeling in this game that I was just like, you know what, we're going to come out, and I feel like we're going to play really well on the road and win. I just had a gut feeling about it, and I said last week that I was hopeful that UGA would win, and we did. So I've just got to say, go Dogs. The next one is Miami over Louisville. That was Isaac. Isaac picked Miami over Louisville. Isaac, why don't you tell us about what went into your pick? Because I've been feeling that Miami has been a little bit fraudulent, so that's why I went with Louisville. But yeah, walk us through why you picked Miami.
You know, Mason, that's a great question. I honestly, the more I thought about it, Miami, even though, in my opinion, they should already have 2 losses because they got bailed out against Virginia Tech, and then it was really, really sketchy against Cal. I didn't catch that one, but I read some of the comments. People were not happy. But the more I thought about it, I really just thought they'd go into Louisville and come out with a win. I knew it'd be close. You know, I think the spread for that game was like a touchdown last weekend, and I knew it'd be a close game, but I just felt like, you know, Louisville, after coming up a little bit short against Notre Dame, maybe they weren't quite to the caliber we thought they were. Now, with that said, we learned that there is no defense in the ACC, or at least with those 2 schools. I mean, they put up 52 points, I think, in the second half. But I just had a feeling that Miami was going to come out ahead. And, you know, the U is in the top 6, and they're still undefeated. So we'll see what happens going into week 7 or week 9. I apologize. I'm off on my time.
Nah, man, it's hard to believe we've already gotten to week 9, man. The season's just gone by just like that. Next up, we had Indiana over Nebraska. Once again, me and Isaac picking this game correctly. I picked Indiana. I don't know, man, off a gut thing. I mean, I thought it was going to be a way closer game than that. I thought Joey made a really good point that we hadn't really seen Indiana play anybody yet. That Nebraska had some tough games, has a tough loss, beat a really good Colorado team. So he went with them, and I thought he actually might be right. Like, I still thought it was going to be a close game. I did not see this game, you know, where Indiana blows out Nebraska. What about you?
Yeah, just the same. I mean, just to be transparent, I had a bet out that was plus 6.5. I had Nebraska covering the spread, but that went away within, 2 minutes of the game. Listen, I'm just going to say this. Indiana's coach, he said, I win. Check me, Google me. And, bro, he did. So, honestly, I thought it'd be a lot closer. I thought Nebraska's defense would be better than it was, but apparently Indiana, that offense is for real, and I'm excited to see them play Washington this weekend. I know that's not on our slate here, but it's going to be a great game.
I think it is too, and I think it's definitely a game that they could come out on top with. And I said this last week about Indiana. Like, they don't have a lot of players that you would know. Like, it's a lot of nobodies, but they play complementary football, and they played extremely well. Next game up that we picked, both of us picked once again, was Tennessee over Bama. One of the things that made me pick Tennessee this week, Bama has been on the downward slide, right? It's like every team has gotten better. Vanderbilt's gotten better. Even Georgia's gotten better after that loss, came out and played a great game. But Alabama, it seems that they peaked against Georgia. They've just gotten worse and worse. They lost to Vanderbilt the week after they played us. They almost lost to South Carolina, and then they go on the road and they lose to Neyland. So Alabama has only one win. This is actually a crazy stat. They have out of 7 games, they have one win on the road. So they've gone 1-2 on the road this year, winning at Wisconsin and then losing at Vanderbilt and at Tennessee. So crazy stat right there. Not something that we'd think we'd see. Obviously, we're going to be picking Alabama and Missouri later on, but just something to think about. Alabama hasn't lost a game in Tuscaloosa since Texas in week 2 last year. So that's another interesting stat to keep an eye on. But I just picked Tennessee, man, because I just felt like Neyland is a really, really underrated place. It's really tough to play. If you go in there underestimating it, you will get beat. And I said last week too that Josh Heupel knows how to beat Alabama. He's done it before. And last time they came to Neyland, they won. And here we are again. Josh Heupel does it to Kalen DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer has his first loss to Tennessee. And he was the coach when Alabama had its first loss to Vandy in 40 years. So that's jury's still out on Coach DeBoer. Still think he's the right guy for the job because, like I said last week as well, I don't think there's anybody available right now or even that would leave their school to go be at Alabama besides this guy. He's the best one. So that's what I got. What about you, man? What did you think about this game?
Honestly, I picked this game strictly off a hunch. And listen, I don't like, none of us like Alabama. And I was like, you know what? I'm going with the Vols. It's a Saturday night in Neyland, third Saturday in October, big rivalry game. They did it 2 years ago, different quarterback, different set of circumstances. But Tennessee, the tough game against Arkansas aside, Tennessee's a great team. And I think they showed it Saturday. I think they were tough. They were resilient. I don't think Alabama is bad by any means, but it's definitely an off year. And I honestly and truly think the NIL, I told you guys this over the weekend, the NIL deals and the transfer portal, I think, has leveled the playing field so much to where Alabama, I mean, the fact they're 15th right now is crazy. 2 losses going into November for the first time since 2007. It's all insane. But the fact is, I think it's a level playing field, and Tennessee's caught up to them. So for the second time in 3 years, it's a win in Neyland for the Vols. Rocky Top was playing. I was laughing and annoyed at the same time. And the goalposts are down. So, yeah, I had a good feeling about this one. I thought Tennessee would do it, and they did. So, we'll see what happens next.
And this game was definitely a blow-by-blow game, just like we said. Alabama goes into the half up 7-0, and then Tennessee comes back, ties it up, gets ahead, and makes the lead 21-14 or 21-17, excuse me, and they win the game. So definitely a tough one. And something else too, Alabama, they get 3 turnovers on defense and turn it into 0 points, which that's a stat in itself. So definitely some plays too on Tennessee where if Nico hits a wide open receiver, they're definitely up 20 to 30 points in the first half because Josh Heupel was definitely dialed it up. He had some great play calls, but they just weren't able to execute the way they wanted to. Came out in the second half, changed that defense, kept them in it the whole way, and great job by this Tennessee team to really pull out this good win in Neyland. Last one, it was Illinois over Michigan, and me and Joey both picked it. So we all 5 games we're talking about this week because it was a really good slate last week. Ended up being some really good games. You were the only one here that picked Michigan. Can you tell us a little bit about why you picked Michigan over Illinois?
For the brand. I mean, honestly, like for the brand, that's all I've got to say. And honestly, listen, and to be transparent with the folks at home, I sent my picks in after I had landed back in North Carolina from Louisiana from the LSU game for the weekend. So I was coming in, kind of groggy, but for the brand, I just had Michigan. I was like, Michigan, Illinois is not a great team. Now that said, they did run Penn State to the wire. Illinois has been a great team all season. Had a big win over Nebraska a few weeks ago. Illinois is definitely not just a basketball school. I never thought we'd talk about Illinois football being good, but here we are. So I was like, it's Michigan. I should have really thought about it because they did lose to Washington. That should have been my first key, but I didn't follow the clues, so I'm not good at Simon Says.
All right, now y'all know what time it is if you've been keeping up with us. It's time for our favorite segment, the Game of the Week. We're finally going to pick the biggest games of Week 9, starting with, of course, our Game of the Week. Isaac, why don't you tell the folks what our Game of the Week is?
Folks, our Game of the Week is going to be 8th-ranked LSU traveling to College Station, Texas to Kyle Field on Saturday night at 7:30 to face 14th-ranked Texas A&M.
Oh, yeah. We're excited about this one. Guys, we have 5 top 25 matchups this week, but this one is probably the most important. Both teams, they're undefeated in conference play, leading the SEC. If the season ended today, which if we said this in week 1 or week 2, this would be like, okay, like whatever. But we're 9 weeks into the season now. We're over halfway. We're almost in November. If the season ended today, we would have these two in the SEC championship. You would see an LSU versus Texas A&M championship. Both teams are 1 loss, with both losses being out of conference and in week 1, with LSU losing to USC in Vegas, who's now 3-4, by the way, and A&M losing to Notre Dame. So now I'm going to let Isaac take over from here because obviously this is his team and I want him to be able to talk about it.
So this series, as I've titled it, dead even, 3-3 for each team in the last 6 matchups, all via the home team. Neither team has won in College Station or Baton Rouge, respectively, in the past 6 matchups. LSU has not won in College Station since 2016. A&M, if we're going to go back a little further, just because I feel like digging on them because it's A&M hate week, has not won in Baton Rouge since they joined the SEC in 2012. So we're a big fan of that statistic. A 7-0 win for A&M in 2018, which I think was obviously big in changing the overtime rule in college football, 74-72. And then LSU with the walk-off in 2021, the big Max Johnson to Jere Jenkins touchdown that was right in front of me. That was a great game. This game always delivers. Super excited about this matchup. Whit Weeks has been on a tear for the LSU linebacker room over the past 2 weeks. 15 solo tackles, 2 sacks, 27 total in the past 2 games. A tremendous help to what has turned into and become a growing and very sharp LSU defense. With the Tigers coming off 2 big wins over Ole Miss in overtime, super excited to be there for that one. Got to touch Tiger Stadium's field. It was beautiful. And a big win over Arkansas, which, by the way, we were 3-point favorites in and won by 24. Did not expect that one. This is their last game before the bye week on November 2nd, before the Alabama game on November 9th. Can LSU avoid letting this be a trap game and win in College Station for the first time since 2016? The ESPN FPI has A&M at 53%. The spread officially has the Aggies by 2.5. Joey had the first pick. Of course, he's not here. Joey is picking A&M, which means that I now have to technically go first. Obviously, guys, I've got the Tigers. This will be a close game. I like LSU on Saturday night. This will not come easy, and if I get it wrong, so be it. But it's a rivalry game. I'm not picking against the guys. I've got LSU to cover. I like them by a field goal, maybe a touchdown, but it's a 1-score game. It'll be close. Garrett Nussmeier turned it around against Arkansas. He struggled against Ole Miss, except for the last drive in overtime, which we won, so we'll take it. The run game's been working. If they can do that, keep the defense locked in, we can get a win at Kyle Field on Saturday night, but it will be tough. Go Tigers.
All right, so looking at the ESPN FPI and the spread, I don't usually take those too much into consideration when making my pick. All I'm going to say about this is that you have a 53% FPI in favor of A&M and a 2.5 spread in favor of A&M, both saying that this is going to be a really close game, which it is. I think this is going to be a blow-by-blow game. A couple weeks ago, we were like, all right, Missouri over A&M, easy. A&M's not that good. Well, A&M, they get the big win by 30 points over Missouri. Nobody saw that coming. I mean, I did think that Missouri was a little bit fraudulent and that they could lose the game, but nobody saw them getting blown out, right? So, but LSU, they're not fraudulent. However, they've been having issues on the defensive struggle. They have been getting better, like Isaac said. Offense has also been struggling. They struggled against a lackluster Ole Miss defense, who they also have a better defense this year, but still, they had to win it in overtime. Man, give me A&M in this one, and let me tell you why. I'm going to go with A&M only because it's in College Station. Once again, this is going to be a close game. I think that A&M will probably win it by 1. LSU definitely can win this game. This is not an unwinnable game for them, of course, but it is going to be blow by blow, and Garrett Nussmeier is going to have to come out and win extremely well. If you look at the quarterback comparison here, Garrett Nussmeier has way better stats, but it's because Connor Weigman was out for a couple weeks. Connor Weigman, we didn't know if he was going to play against Missouri, and then he comes out and, of course, gets the huge win over Missouri, leading the Aggies to the 30-point win. So far, he's gotten 718 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Just in that game, though, Connor Weigman, he went 18 for 22 and 276 yards. So we'll see how this one goes. Obviously, the defense has been playing really well at A&M, so this one's going to be a tough game for LSU, in my opinion, especially with it being on the road. Give me the Aggies by 3. All right, moving on to Saturday now. We have a big game here. This is number 12 Notre Dame versus number 24 Navy. Wow, look at Navy ranked in the top 25. Once again, not something that I thought I would be saying this season, but I didn't think I'd be about to say this either. They're having their best start to a season basically ever, jumping out to 6-0. However, Notre Dame will be their true first test. It is at home for them, which is in their favor. However, Notre Dame is still a tough team. Notre Dame, they started off the season a little shaky. They actually, were beating Texas. They actually beat Texas A&M on the road, but then they immediately turned around and lost to NIU. Since then, they've seemed to turn it around, getting some big wins over Georgia Tech, Stanford, who they beat by 30, and Louisville in a close one on the road. So, they've definitely turned things around. Are they going to be in the playoffs? We will see, especially with them being an independent school and not having a championship. But it'll still be cool to see them. But right, we said they've seemed to turn it around, but this team is not unbeatable. The ESPN FPI is Notre Dame 91%. The spread is Notre Dame by 12.5. Isaac, you are unfortunately basically picking first again. Who you got?
Mason, Notre Dame, everything in me wants to pick them. Part of that's because of bias. I watched Navy blow out UNC Charlotte on Saturday. Navy looked really good. Notre Dame has looked increasingly good after their win. Of course, they beat A&M. They lost to NIU, which was crazy, like you just mentioned. But they've seemed to turn it around, and they look good. I don't think they're unbeatable. 12.5 point spread, I got to be honest, I'm a little bit shocked that Navy is almost a 2-touchdown underdog. And as much as I might end up regretting this pick, I'm going to go with the midshipmen on Saturday. I'm going to go with the Naval Academy. Honestly, I like them. I don't like them to cover. I like them by maybe a touchdown, but I think this is going to be a good game, and I think that the triple option offense, they've got it working. They've got a defense. It'll be their first true test. I might get it wrong, but give me the midshipmen. Go Navy.
All right, so something I wanted to point out before I make my pick is that no matter whether or not Navy loses this game, they're still going to be undefeated in conference play in the American Conference. Well, you know who else is still going to be undefeated this weekend in conference play? Or you know who else is still going to be undefeated up to this point? Is Army. If they can get to the AAC championship, we're going to get the Army-Navy game 2 weeks in a row, which is just, that's so cool, dude. I hope that happens. So no matter what, for this game, it would be cool for Navy's playoff implications because they could still make it. But even if they lose this game, they could still make it because right now the American Conference Championship is looking like it's going to be having the team that gets the auto bid into the playoffs. So with that being said, man, this is tough. Navy is a really good team. They've been playing some really good ball, but who have they faced? That's why this is going to be a true test for them. We know that Notre Dame can lose to teams they don't normally lose to, and they've done it in week 2 a couple years in a row. Lost to NIU in week 2 this year. A couple years ago, lost to Marshall in week 2. That was when Tyler Buckner was still the quarterback there. So this is a really tough pick. I don't like that the spread is in favor of Notre Dame by 12, almost 2 touchdowns. And I also don't like that Notre Dame is favored to win this game by 91% in the ESPN FPI. However, I do think that Notre Dame is going to win this game. I really want to pick Navy here just because, man, that would be awesome. However, I think that Notre Dame is a really tough team. I don't think that Marcus Freeman drops this one. If they do, that'll be awesome. I'm actually going to be pulling for Navy in this game. My dad was in the Navy. I love the midshipmen. But for the sake of my record, I'm going to have to go with Notre Dame here. So give me the Irish in this one. Joey is also picking Notre Dame.
All right, folks, our next game for this week is going to be 20th ranked Illinois traveling to Eugene to take on number 1 ranked Oregon. You heard that right. The Ducks are in first place in the AP poll at 3:30 p.m. on Saturday afternoon. The Fighting Illini are going on the road to take on the Ducks, who just pummeled Purdue. Now, they got off to a really hot start. It was like, I think, 21-0, and then they kind of went stale for a little while, right? But nonetheless, Oregon, they had a slow start. They've really come into their own after knocking off Ohio State 2 weeks ago in what I think Joey called game of the year. I would say it was definitely top 2. I don't know if it could top Georgia Bama. That's just a little bit of SEC bias, if I'm honest. But nonetheless, and then they blanked the Boilermakers just last week. Illinois has the 1 loss to Penn State, but they did just take down Michigan, who is definitely below average this year. I mean, they lost something like 30 seniors, but they still had a tough win at home against the defending national championship program. The ESPN FPI has Oregon by 92%, and the spread officially has Oregon by 25 points. That is massive in this Big Ten matchup. It's weird really talking about Oregon being in the big, but nonetheless, I'm not going first. Mason, who you got?
So what did we say 2 weeks ago, right? Well, we had Penn State going to USC, and we had Ohio State going to Oregon. These teams having to travel to the West Coast, it definitely has an effect. Penn State barely escaped, winning in overtime by 3, and Ohio State was not able to escape Autzen. They lost by 1, 33-32. This is a tough thing for teams in the Big Ten, especially the original teams that now have to travel out west. Jet lag is a thing. It's tough. So that being said, Illinois definitely is going to have a tough time going to Autzen. It's already a tough place to play, and then going on the road. They are in the Midwest, so they're not quite all the way on the East Coast, but still, it's a long way to go. It's halfway across the country. Like I said earlier, Illinois has a pretty good little team that they're putting together. I mean, they only have the 1 loss to Penn State. They beat Michigan. They're a pretty good little team. I think Oregon by 25 is a little bit of a stretch. The best team they've played so far is Penn State. They only lost by 14. I even said then that I think 21-point spread against Penn State is a little too much, and I was right. They ended up losing by 14. So I do think Oregon is going to win this game 100%. I think their defense is really good. I think that they're going to play extremely well at home. I don't think they're going to drop a game here. However, Illinois, they're a good team. They're not going to get beat by 25. I got them losing by 14 again. It'll be something like 35-21. Give me the Ducks in this one.
And Joey is also picking Oregon to win on Saturday afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and make a TBD triple pick. I've got the Ducks as well. A big game in Eugene, but I also think that 25 points, 3.5 touchdowns is far too large for a gritty Illinois team. I don't think Illinois, I made the joke about them being a basketball school. They've got a good program, but Oregon is another level. Now, we can make the argument it's a noon game. It'll be a little bit easier than it would be on a Saturday night, but nonetheless, I've got the Ducks. I like them by 2 touchdowns. I definitely think that Illinois covers the spread, but I definitely like Oregon to win pretty large in this game on Saturday. I got the Ducks. TBD triple pick.
All right, next game up, we got number 21 Missouri versus number 15 Alabama at 3:30. So number 15 Alabama is truly not something that I thought I'd be saying after they beat us in week 5, but here we are. They dropped to 15 after getting beat at Neyland Stadium on the road to the Tennessee Volunteers, obviously. Missouri is coming off a close win against Auburn in Como, which definitely would have been much closer had Brady Cook not been out half the game with an injury. He came in. I can't remember what happened. I think it was somewhere in the abdomen. He ended up coming back in the second half. They were down to Auburn at one point, 17-3. They were able to come all the way back to pull out the struggle win. Both these teams seem to be a little fraudulent. Even I was only thinking with Alabama that the defense was fraudulent, but the last couple of weeks, Alabama's been showing me that their offense is also fraudulent. I mean, Missouri just lost by 30 to A&M 2 weeks ago, and since beating Georgia, Alabama has dropped 2 SEC losses, with one of them being to Vandy, who is obviously much better this year. We've established that, but still, it's Vandy. They struggled with Ball State this weekend. So instead of improving, it seems like they kind of peaked at Georgia. They played their best offensive game so far, and obviously, if you turn the ball over 3 times in your own territory, they're going to be able to take advantage of that. However, they played extremely well. They went up 30-7 at one point. We were able to come all the way back. And then obviously we gave up the impressive, awesome play from Milroe to Ryan Williams to give them the touchdown. We end up almost scoring again, but obviously we end up having an interception at the end of the game and we lose. But instead of improving, like I said, it seems like they peaked and they've just gotten worse and worse. Milroe has turned the ball over 6 times in their last 3 games, which is something that he's not prone to do a lot of. He doesn't throw a lot of interceptions, but he has over these last 6 games, and he even had a safety against South Carolina. So Bama, they get the luck of the draw this week, being at home. Like I said earlier, they have not lost at home since week 2 last year against Texas. Could this week be different? I mean, everybody thought South Carolina was going to get thwomped when they rode into town, but they actually ended up almost winning. So how does Missouri win this game? ESPN FPI, Bama 82%. The spread is Bama by 13.5. Joey's pick, he's picking Bama by a hair in a shootout. He's saying that there will be no defense in this game by either team. It's going to be a back-and-forth, blow-by-blow game. Isaac, you're picking first now, though. Who you got?
Let me just go on record to say that in week 0, if you'd have told me this would be a tough pick, I would have called you a liar. I also almost, like in my own little world, picked Auburn over Missouri, and I would almost have been right on Saturday because it took Missouri the last drive of the game to beat Auburn. Now, I'm not trying to knock Auburn, but that game was at Missouri, and it should have been, I don't know, man. It's just tough. I mean, Missouri is a flat team. Alabama has looked really rough. 13.5 points, though. I mean, I get it. I think that's probably Bama bias. I don't think Alabama's a 2-touchdown winner in this game. This one I think will be tough. Both teams have struggled so much, it's really hard to have a clear pick. I'm going to go with the Tide. I do think Alabama wins this game, but I think Missouri covers the spread. I don't know that it will be I don't know that it'll be by a hair, maybe like a touchdown, which I guess is still pretty close. But I think Missouri covers the spread. This one will probably be a non-defensive game. I think it'll be back and forth. But ultimately, I think Alabama does get this win because I don't think Missouri, even with Alabama with their flaws, I don't think Missouri is that great of a football team. Again, A&M thumped them just a couple of weeks ago. They struggled against Auburn at home. I got the Tide in this one, but I got Mizzou covered.
So I actually kind of disagree with you. You said that if you would have told me at the beginning of the season that Alabama and Missouri was going to be a hard game to pick, I still would have said, yeah, you're probably right, because I thought both of these teams were going to be really, really good coming into this game. But now it's the opposite. Both teams seem a little fraudulent. Alabama's offense not really able to get anything going the last couple weeks against some subpar teams. Tennessee's not subpar, but they have a really good defense. But still, the fact that they weren't able to score much in the first half nor the second half kind of says a lot. It still was a close game, but a lot of missed opportunities there on offense in that game. Missouri, too. I mean, Brady Cook, he's not that good. He did lead his team to victory over Auburn this past weekend at home. But now they have a tough game. They got to go on the road and play in Tuscaloosa, which once again is a really tough place to play. This one's tough. Looking at these quarterback comparisons, Jalen Milroe has gone for a lot more touchdowns, but he's a really mobile quarterback. Brady Cook, he's only thrown 7 touchdowns, but he has 1 interception this season. Jalen Milroe has 6 interceptions. So who's going to be more prone to turning the ball over here? Honestly, probably Bama, just because I think that Missouri might have the better defense than them. For this pick, this one actually is really tough. I'm going to pick Missouri here. I'm going to pick the upset. I think that Bama spread 13.5. I don't think that's too much. It definitely could go that way, but I think that this might be a statement game for Missouri. I think they have a really good opportunity here, and I think that they know it. I think that they're going to look to turn some things around. They just have a big loss against Texas A&M a couple weeks ago, struggle win against Missouri this week. The Brady Cook injury, that could turn some things around, but he was able to come back into the game and play. So we'll see how he does against Alabama this weekend. But I think that they're gonna be hungry for this win, because I think the two things that you're seeing here is Alabama's going to be upset because they lost this game, and now they have 2 losses on their schedule, and they have to fight their way just to make the playoffs now. So they basically have to go undefeated with still a pretty tough schedule remaining. But on the other hand, you have Missouri, who's still looking for that statement win, still looking for a huge win to put on their schedule. They've only lost 1 game as well. So I think that they're going to be looking for a really good win here, and I think they're going to be motivated. So that's why give me Missouri in a close one.
All right. And our final game of week 9 in 2024 is going to be 5th-ranked Texas, dropping 4 spots in the poll, playing on the road in Nashville against 25th-ranked Vanderbilt. Once again, stuff we talked about probably wouldn't have said earlier in the year. 25th-ranked Vanderbilt is up there on the list, but here we are. A big win over Alabama a couple weeks ago has got them in the conversation. Obviously, Texas coming off a massive loss to Georgia at home. They went into the half down 23-0, coming back a little bit in the second half, but still lost 30-15. That was a dog show, and it's not even Thanksgiving. Vanderbilt having an absolutely historic season, knocking off Alabama and Kentucky and getting off to a 5-2 start. Obviously, there's a lot of season left, but Vandy is very, very, very far ahead, light years ahead, if you will, of where we thought they'd be at this point in the season and in this season as a whole, because no disrespect, but it's Vanderbilt. Texas has the playmakers, but Vandy has the heart on the field in this game, which will be the bigger deal. The ESPN FPI has Texas at 91%. The spread has the Longhorns at 18.5 points. I'm picking first. This one I did not expect to be a tough game to pick. I think that Vanderbilt obviously gives Texas a run. I don't think that Texas is, if you will, the juggernaut we thought they were. I think across the board, most of CFB, especially among the top 8 teams, seems to be pretty level. I mean, even Ohio State, who had like this, massive $2 million or whatever it was, NIL speculation or deals or whatever, they ended up losing to Oregon, who's a great team, by the way. Oregon's a great team. But, I mean, we really thought Ohio State and Ryan Day, like, they were the stuff. Newsflash, they say it every year. But anyway, onward we go. I'm going to go with the Longhorns in this game, but honestly, I like Vanderbilt to cover the spread. I like Texas probably by 10, maybe 2 touchdowns, maybe 14. But I do think Vanderbilt covers the spread. I think it'll be a better game than some expect. So if you're looking for a good game on Saturday that's not, on the radar, this is the one. I've got the Longhorns. Vanderbilt covers in Nashville on Saturday.
So historically, Vanderbilt has obviously not been a crazy tough place to play. And I don't know that that's changed this year, but the fans are definitely way more into it. So my question here is this going to be a tough atmosphere for Texas? The fans got gifted a huge win against Alabama. Does that make them come out of their shell and say, okay, this Vanderbilt team is for real? Because I got to tell you, there is one dude who's for real, and it's Diego Pavia, the quarterback. Man, they run an incredible triple option, and I'm sure that's something that Texas is going to be taking into account. But this dude can throw it, and he uses his legs extremely well. When you look at these stats, when you actually compare Quinn Ewers to Diego Pavia, Quinn Ewers has 1,101 yards. Now, to be fair, he is coming back from injury, but he's had 1,101 yards. Diego Pavia has 1,391 yards. Quinn Ewers has 11 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Diego Pavia has 11 touchdowns and 1 interception. So when you put the games together that Quinn Ewers is in, it's probably a lot more touchdowns per game than Diego Pavia, but he obviously has the more impressive win over Alabama than Texas has. Because Texas, they had, like I said last week, they hadn't really played anybody until they played us, and they lost at home by 15 points. Went into the half down 23-0. But now over at Texas, you've got this quarterback controversy, right? So the whole season, there has not been one. Sark has been trying to stay away from it, right? It's no, Ewers is the guy. Manning is not going to take over the spot. He's really good. We saw him come in against a couple of teams when Quinn Ewers was injured, and that's kind of where the controversy started. Was like, well, should Texas stick with this guy? No, he gets healthy. Quinn Ewers comes back. He starts the game against Georgia. They're down 20-0, and what does Sark do? He automatically creates a controversy by taking out Ewing and putting in Manning. And once again, Manning still sucked. So now you've got this controversy you've got this thing where Quinn Ewers is like worried that any mistake he makes, he's going to get benched for Manning. And now you got this media controversy that you didn't even really mean to start, even if you were just trying to give viewers, an opportunity to kind of catch his breath, get his thoughts together, and put Manning in. Now you've created all of this drama. And I think that there's going to be some issues with that. So give me Vanderbilt for the upset. I did not pick them last time. I was like, Alabama's about to slaughter. They didn't. Vanderbilt's a way better team than we think. I think that they used this past week to really get ready for Texas, which is maybe the reason why they've struggled with the Ball State a little bit. Texas obviously also mad. They're going to be looking to prove something. But, I think this Vanderbilt team is for real. So even if they don't win, I still got them to cover the spread either way. Texas will not win this game by 18.5, but give me the Commodores in this one because I think that they've got a really good team, and I think Diego Pavia and Clark Lee, they're going to be ready to go. So give me freaking Vanderbilt, dude. Man, this is the first week where we've actually had more than 4 top 25 matchups. This is week 9. Week 9 is the week of top 25s. Obviously, playoff implications here. We're living in a world right now where if Vanderbilt wins a game like this, they could still be in the hunt for the playoffs, which is insane to think about because after this, their schedule is not increasingly tough. So, this is going to be just a crazy week of football. I'm super excited to watch it. I'm either going to do extremely well or extremely bad because I've picked a lot of upsets, but we'll see what happens. But we appreciate you guys watching and listening.
And always remember,
no matter what team you pull for, if you're on God's side, you're always on the winning team. Just know that there is a Father in heaven who loves you, who created you, who wants to be in relationship with you, who wants to know you. And if you don't have that, we promise you need it. The gospel works like this. The Bible tells us in Romans that for the wages of sin is death, which basically means that because of God's justice, it deserves the death of the sinner. However, he sent his only son only because he loved you. The Bible actually tells us that while we were yet sinners, God showed his love for us in this, that he sent his son to die for us. And we believe that here at TBD Sportscast. It's one of the main reasons why we do this show. We want you guys to know about the love of Jesus and the sacrifice that he made for you. And if you don't have that, we promise you need it. Jesus will free you from whatever you struggle with. And anything you guys need to talk about, please hit us up on our Instagram DMs, on our TikTok TMs. You can leave a comment on this YouTube video, and we'll pray for you, and we'll talk with you about whatever you want to talk about. Even this, guys, we pray. We're praying for you. We pray for our listeners. We do ask that you would like and subscribe. It helps us grow the channel. We'd love to reach more with the gospel and just talking about college football. So we appreciate all you guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Later.